So we continue with the Diamond Sutra. We finished discussion on chapter 13 last time, and we'll begin now with chapter 14, or section 14. Can you turn to page 12? Section 14 in the Chinese language. 离相即灭分第14. And let us read the first paragraph. At that time, after listening to the sutra, Subhuti understood its profound meaning and shed tears. He said to the Buddha, "Rare and world-honored one, the Buddha has expounded such a very profound sutra. Since I acquired the wisdom eye, I have not heard of such a sutra." So that's what Subhuti said. Why did Subhuti shed tears? Subhuti is an arahat. So you should know what arahat means. Most people know already. So Subhuti, the arahat, shed tears. Subhuti was moved to tears as he now has discovered the power of this sutra in changing the karmic life of sentient beings. Although Subhuti is an arahat and living his last life, he now realizes that there is more to the Buddha's teaching than the doctrine of emptiness, and that his cultivation of true egoless has been selfish. So just removing the ego, as I said, the wall of the ego prison crumbled down, and that is it. No more ego, and that's good enough for nirvana. So if you only emphasize on egoless or the doctrine of emptiness, still you haven't got it yet. Now, if the ego is gone, remember last time we took the analogy, the metaphor that we're living in the ego prison. That's our comfort zone. We're living here. We feel quite comfortable in our ego, and we practice the Theravada. We practice Sravaka approach, and then we eliminate all the mental afflictions relating to the ego, and then there's no more ego. No more ego, no more I. No more I, no more mental afflictions. No more mental afflictions, nirvana. We go to nirvana. No more life and death, no more reincarnation. So in other words, the individual is liberated from the bondage of reincarnation, which is good enough. But then, it's not sufficient yet, because the Bodhisattva's way is much more. The Hinayana approach is more geared towards self-enlightenment. Subhuti realizes that the true selflessness must be aiming at helping sentient beings to end suffering. So selflessness is not just, I got nirvana, I'm out of samsara, I'm out of life and death. No more reincarnation for me, no suffering for me, no mental afflictions, and that's it. I'm enlightened. That's not enough. True selflessness is to help sentient beings to end sufferings too. So Subhuti discovered that. He discovered that it's not just the doctrine of emptiness, it's not just the elimination of the ego. There's much more to it. So he's so moved, and he was moved to tears. And the Bodhisattva's way is the prajna paramita way, the power of prajna. So there is a lot more to go. So you maintain that doctrine of emptiness, the doctrine of egoness. You eliminate all the mental afflictions, no more life and death, no more suffering. Not enough. You still have to get rid of the Dharma. That Dharma is emptiness, that Dharma is egoness. You still have that Dharma. You still have to empty the Dharma. After you empty that Dharma, you go further. You strip the Dharma off. After you strip the Dharma off, you still strip off that Dharma. Now, if you know the Chinese languages, 先修无我观，就比如人空了，空了人了， 空了人还不够，还有空法，空了法还不够，还有空空，连你的空也要空掉。So, no more ego, empty your ego, empty your dharma, empty your emptiness. Do you understand? Even that emptiness, you have to let go. No more. So that's why Subhuti was moved to tears, because he's discovered more. He's discovered that once the wall of that ego prison crumbled down, he could see all the horizon. But there's a lot more. He sees a lot more. Not just this crumbling down of the ego, but there's a lot more to it. And he was so touched and moved to tears. And he said, the Buddha has expounded such a very profound sutra. Since I acquired the wisdom eye, I have not heard of such a sutra. What is the wisdom eye? Since I have acquired the wisdom eye. Do you know that in the Buddha's teaching, there are 5 eyes? 5 eyes. Number 1, the physical eye. We have the physical eye. 肉眼. The heavenly eye. The heavenly eye possessed by devas. We use a common English name for it, guardian angels. Beings in heavens, devas. Heavenly eye possessed by devas, and sometimes they were also possessed by humans who practice meditation to a certain profound level. You could have acquired the heavenly eye too, if you got the power of meditation. Even in this world, in this karma world, you can have heavenly eyes too, not just the devas. So this heavenly eye can see far and near, past and future, inside and outside, front and back. That's a supernatural power. When you're up to a certain meditation level, you could acquire that power. Many people have that power. That's just a byproduct of meditation. That's not the end of meditation. Meditation is not practiced in such a way that you want to acquire supernatural power. You don't attach to supernatural power. If you are coveting supernatural power, your greediness comes. Then that's not the right way. So you have the physical eye, the heavenly eye, and what's the third eye? The third eye is the wisdom eye, possessed by Sravakas, possessed by arahats, who can see the inherent existence of things. That is to say, they see the sunyata of all things, the emptiness of all things. They are free from the fallacious conceptualization of fallacious concept. So that fallacious conceptualization in you of ego, personality, beings, and life is all gone, no more. Then they have liberated themselves from the mental afflictions of the ego. In other words, they are free from the bondage of the ego. No more life and death after this last life. Subhuti still has to live through his last life though. After this last life, parinirvana. What is parinirvana? Parinirvana. No more left. The saint who became the saint, Arahat, they still have to live through this physical life. After this physical life, there's no more life in flesh and blood. It's just that eternity. But Subhuti, that is for his last life, he already have acquired the wisdom eye. No more ego. Nirvana already. But nirvana with a body. So that's the third eye, the wisdom eye. The fourth eye is the Dharma eye, Fa Yan, possessed by bodhisattvas, which sees through not only emptiness of all things, but emptiness of all dharmas, which see through not only ego non-attachment, but also dharma non-attachment. And such eyes also eliminates all teachings and know all knowledge in the process of rendering compassion to sentient beings. That is the Dharma eye of the bodhisattvas. You see the difference? And then the fifth eye is, of course, the Buddha eye. The Buddha eye would include all the prior 4 eyes. So the 5 eyes. And Subhuti, being the Arahat, has already obtained the wisdom eye. So that's why he said, I acquired the wisdom eye. I've never heard of such a sutra. I thought practicing ends at nirvana. I thought practicing ends at emptying out the ego. No more ego, no more life and death for me, no more suffering. For me, I'm more enlightened. And that's it. I'm already out from that prison of ego, or ego prison. But then he's discovered there's a lot more. All right? So next paragraph. Were honor one, if someone after listening to this sutra believes that his mind is clean and pure, he will realize reality. We should know that such a person will achieve the highest and various merit. The Sravakas being the Srotapana, Strakatagamin, Anagamin, and Arahats. Those are the four levels. The Sravakas in the Chinese language is Shengwen. The Sravakas obtain enlightenment through study, through the senses of seeing and listening. The Sravakas. They listen to the Buddha's teaching, or they read sutras, and they get enlightened. And they're also Pratyeka Buddhas, which these practitioners, these enlightened beings, they live in a world without Buddha. They just obtain enlightenment by observing. They observe the spring, the winter, the summer, and the autumn. They observe all this changeability. They observe impermanence. They observe causality. And they, all by themselves, enlightened through observation. Some people get enlightened not from books, not from listening to the Buddha. They just meditate and they observe. Here comes spring with a lot of flowers blossoming. And then all of a sudden, autumn comes. All the flowers wither away. The whole world changes. And all of a sudden, winter comes. So with all this changeability, they realize life is changeable. Life is impermanent. Life is transitory. Life is based on causalities. Life is fictitious. Life is but a dream. He discovered it himself, all by himself. He doesn't have to listen to the Buddha's teaching. He doesn't have to read sutras. Pratyeka Buddha, those are another kind of enlightened people. Not the Sravakas, they are Pratyeka Buddhas, from self-enlightenment. So in here, the Sravakas cut off obstruction of the passions, but not the obstructions of what they know. They still have attachment to the Dharma. They will hang on to their knowledge of emptiness. Although they eliminate the attachment to self, the attachment to Dharma still remains. So upon hearing the teaching of the Diamond Sutra, Subhuti realized not only the emptiness of attachment to the self, he also realized the emptiness of attachment to the Dharma and was able to see the truth of all Dharmas. So that's what it means. It's very rare, and any person who sees through that will achieve the highest and rarest merit. Next paragraph. Were honor one, this reality is not reality, but the Tathagata calls it reality. There seems to be contradiction in that sentence. This reality is not reality, but the Buddha calls it reality. What is the first reality? This reality. This reality is not reality. This reality, the first reality, is the reality of the temporal world, the reality of causality. So the first reality is the reality of the world, emptiness, causality, impermanence, and no self-nature, transitory. That's the reality too. But this reality is causality. And the second reality is the absolute eternity, the Paramartha Satya, the absolute truth. But they are not the same. They're merely it's called the reality so that you understand the other reality. The first reality express the second reality. But the second reality can only be known and not told. In other words, it can't be expressed in words. But you need words to understand. So don't take the words as the reality. You go to Victoria, as I said, you go to Nanaimo and get into the ship. You take the ship to Victoria. That ship is not the destination. It's the means to the destination. You are on the ship. And some people never even operate the ship. They just stay on this shore and they think they're moving. And some operate and move and go on, they get on there, but they still have to get off the ship to go onto the shore. So when a person perceives this sutra, knows its truth, and practices accordingly, his mind must be pure and free. If you practice according to the sutra, your mind must be pure and free. Then this person will have received the highest and various merit, because at that time his mind harmonizes with prajna. You know prajna paramita? There's a saying, when there is no desultory thought, there's no more thought coming out from your mind, what's left? When there's no more, if you're really thoughtless, some thoughtless is just drowsiness, you know. You think you're thoughtless, but you're drowsy, you just doze into a nap. It's not thoughtless. Thoughtless is not knowing nothing. Thoughtless is your mind is very, very alertous, but there's no thought in it. That's the difference. When there's no thought, prajna comes up, or prajna is there. So what is the meaning of this sentence, which seems to be contradictory? This reality is not reality. Here, reality means the ability to see the emptiness of all things, the sunyata of all things. This is the enlightenment as acquired by the practitioner when he achieves arahatship. This ability to see reality helps to eliminate the ego completely, but it is not final, as you may still attach to this ability. So this reality is not the true absolute Dharma, not the true reality. It is not the ultimate, not the utmost. When you attach to emptiness, you are still not free. Of course, you have already been removed, you have already eliminated ego, you're out from suffering, but you are still not free because the Dharma is still there. So next page. World Honored One, as I now listen to this sutra, I have no difficulty in believing, understanding, receiving and holding it, but 500 years later, into the last epoch, if there be no man who happens to listen to this sutra, believes, understands, receives and holds it, he would be most rare. So, what does this paragraph mean? Why did the Buddha mention 500 years and not 400 years, 600 years, 800 years? There's a meaning in 500 years. You have to understand the prediction of the Buddha on the rise and fall of Buddhism. Everything is subject to the cycle of becoming and ending and rising and falling. So the Buddha said everything has a period of arising, maintaining, changing, and disintegrating. Everything. There's nothing in this world that's not changing, including the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha can say, everything changes and my teaching doesn't change. It's contradictory. Everything changed. There's no exception. Even the Buddha's teaching is arising, maintaining, changing, finally disintegrating. A cycle. So the Buddha already said there's three periods, three epochs of the Dharma, of the cycle of the Dharma, arising, maintaining, and perishing. One of these three periods, the first period is the actual Dharma period. We call it the actual Dharma period for 1,000 years. The second period is the resembling Dharma, resembles the actual Dharma for 1,000 years. And the last period is the Dharma ending period for 10,000 years. That's the prediction of the Buddha. in the actual Dharma period of 1,000 years, after the demise of Buddha, we break it down into two 500. The first 500, after the Buddha passed away, within 500 years, there were still many followers who achieved liberation, who achieved nirvana. That's approximately from 550 BC to 50 BC. So in other words, within 500 years after the Buddha passed away, there are still practitioners, there are still followers who practice the Buddha's teaching and actually get liberation, nirvana. Then in the second 500 years, there were fewer and fewer followers who could achieve liberation at one lifetime through their own practice, but there's a lot of people who meditate. A lot of people who meditated and practice, but very few people become successful in actual life liberation. That's the next 500 years, in the first 1,000 years. You see what I mean? So that's the first actual Dharma period. The second Dharma period of 1,000 years, we call it the resembling Dharma period, is again broken down into two 500. The first 500, in the second period, followers practice through listening and reading rather than actual meditation. In other words, you just read about it and talk about it, and the practice itself, very few people practice. That's the first 500 years. In the second 500 years, followers were mostly interested in building temples and pagodas. They were not interested in actual practice. Now we come into that period. There were more temples than practitioners. They're interested only in building, only in form, but not really in the practice. That is the second 1,000 years. And the third period, the Dharma ending period of 10,000 years, is broken down into the first 500 and then the remaining years. The first 500, there's a lot of discontent and differences in practice among the followers. Right now we're in it. We're in the Dharma ending. We're at the beginning of the Dharma ending period. We still have Buddhism now because we've just begun the Dharma ending period. As time goes on, the Buddhist teaching, this world won't see the Buddhist teaching anymore. As time goes on, there's less and less practitioners. There's less and less people who practice compassion. There's less and less people who practice meditation, endurances, morality, more and more killing, more and more international wars, more and more environmental issues, more and more humans killing each other, humans killing animal, animal killing humans, more and more. No more Buddhist teaching. Only wars, only mishaps, only disasters, only selfishness. Nothing's got left. Hopefully all of us are already in nirvana. We don't have to go through that, the remaining 10,000 years. That's true, because more and more people, they're not practicing. Even in the people who are following the Buddhist teaching, there's a lot of descendants in there. There's a lot of people who have discontent about everything. There could be monks or nuns who wear the robes of monks and nuns. Actually, they're against the Buddhist teaching, or they're emphasizing only at profit making, for reputation and money, not for the actual practice. Fictitious practitioners. When I was in Hong Kong, I saw monks who are actually not monks. They dress as monks, they shave their heads, and they're holding a bowl in a traffic busy areas with a lot of passers-by, and they were holding a bowl and hitting it dong, dong, and people depositing money into the bowl. And at 5 o'clock, there's a van to pick them up. And then they immediately take off this robe and put on their suit, put on their spectacles, and go home. Put on their hat, they have a family. Those are fictitious monks. They're not real monks. Because they know they could make profit from begging. So, we're right now in the Dharma ending period. 末法时代. So, that's within the prediction of the Buddha. And that also explains the law of changeability. Everything changes. Everything is fleeting. Everything is transient, transitory. We have to hurry up to end this suffering. If you don't practice in this lifetime, if you can't get out from the life of life and death, you go through another loop of reincarnation. You reincarnate again. Who forces you into reincarnation? Is it Buddha? Is it God? You yourself. You build your own heaven. You establish your own hell. You direct your own course. You walk your path, your own path. Don't blame anybody else for it. Certainly not your mom and dad. Not your husband or your wife. You yourself. Is that scary? We could go through another loop of reincarnation. And to us, it's not urgent, because we always think that the death is so far away, so remote. And in the ancient Chinese saying, the monks always remind each other, practice is like fire burning in your head. You really have to put down the fire. Your hair is on fire. When your hair is on fire, do you wait? Do you still relax and listen to the music, going to parties, talking on the phone, watching televisions? Do you still do that? When your hair is on fire. To practice, to get out from reincarnation, to end suffering, is like putting out the fire that is burning in your hair or your eyebrows. Or this, metaphorically, it's like every day passes, it's like you are in an aquarium of, you are a fish in an aquarium of water. Because of evaporation, this water level is sinking and sinking every day. You have less and less water. Finally, there's no more water left, and that fish, that little fish, is all dried up and gone and dead. It's just like that sinking water. 如小水鱼，好像那个鱼，这个水啊，慢慢减少了。So it's like the diminishing water in a tank for the fish and burning hair in the head of a hillman. Are you not scared about it, or you want to practice and get out from the suffering? Because we don't know when we're going to die. You know when you're going to die? I don't know. But it's not too far off, though. You have 100 years to live. But you always don't care about that until that day comes. And then it's too late. There's a Chinese saying, and I like to translate it, 一日无常到，方知梦里人，万般带不去，唯有业随身。One day, when death arrives, then I know life is but a dream. But that dream is so real, though. In our dream, we never say we are dreaming and that dream is, this is not real. You never say that. You always take that dream as real. Only when you wake up, you know your dream is not real. Actually, we're all in a daydream now. What we are experiencing, our experience tells us this is quite analogous to a dream at night. What is the nature of a dream? Impermanent. If you dream for, say, if you sleep for 8 hours and you dream for 5, you only have that dream for 5 hours. When you wake up, it's gone. It bounds to come to an end. It's impermanent. It's transitory. And what is more important, it has no self in it. What makes that dream come true in that dream? All these images put together, reflections of your past, reflections of your daily experiences. It grouped together to get images. And those images are fictitious images put together. It's like a movie. It's intangible. It's all causes put together. Just like this one. Just like this one, that it's all causes put together that we have this. That we have these 5 skandhas. That we have this body. That we have this mind. We have a body and we have a mind. And this body and mind is nothing but the 5 skandhas. The body is the physical form. The mind is what? Perception, conception, volition, and consciousness. It's not tangible. You can't get it. It's not eternity. But we attach to it. We kill for it. We do anything for it. We do anything to keep the 5 skandhas. We maintain the 5 skandhas going. We commit all kinds of errors, sins, misconduct, which bring us karma, which give us another loop of reincarnation. So, why? Because he will no longer have or think in terms of ego, personality, being, and life. Why is that man rare? Quite rare. If he believe in it, if he practice according to the Sutra accordingly, in accord with the Sutra's teaching, he is quite rare. Because why? Because he knows that he should get rid of ego, personality, being, and life. He should practice that. It's rare that you practice that. Next paragraph. Why? Because the forms of an ego, personality, and a being and a life are not forms. In other words, don't attach to ego, personality, being, and life. Next paragraph. Why? Because when he has detached all forms, he is called a Buddha. If you can detach all forms, but you don't attach to form, the Buddhas are free of all forms. Now this form has a more comprehensive meaning than just form. This is all form. Here the word forms include, of course, the 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates. So in other words, the Buddha are free of the 5 skandhas, liberated from the 5 skandhas. There's a saying that sages arise from what is uncreated. Anything created is form. It's arising from the uncreated. Buddha and Bodhisattvas do not attach to either side, emptiness and non-emptiness. The Buddha and Bodhisattvas do not attach to emptiness, do not attach to non-emptiness, nor do they dwell in the middle. They say, oh, I don't go extremes, I get in the middle. No, they do not dwell in the middle. They abide nowhere. They attach nothing. There's nothing to be obtained. We just chant the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is very profound, you know. There's a sentence there we just chanted, because there's nothing to be obtained. The Arhat still want to obtain that nirvana. Get rid of that nirvana, nothing up to be obtained. So, we haven't finished this chapter 14, but we can carry on next time. And the Diamond Sutra, you really have to ponder on it, think about it to understand it. If you don't understand it, there's a lot of contradictions. Sentences are contradictory in there, but actually it's not. If you consider the tangible and the intangible, the form and the unformed, and if you understand what reality is, and what is that Paramatha Satya, which is the absolute truth, the absolute truth cannot be told about. It can only be known. We cannot talk about it because it's beyond expression, beyond words, beyond conceptualizations. But yet, the Buddha has to talk about it. Has to say, this is reality. This reality is free from reincarnation, the doctrine of emptiness, impermanence, causality, all these, but these are not, this relates to the reality, but these are not reality themselves. The real reality cannot be talked about. The real reality is free, is pure and free and liberated from all conceptualizations. Remember pointing the finger to the moon? That's the moon. This is not the moon. This is just a finger. You should see the moon and not just this. This is not the moon. That's the moon. But you need this. So that for the unwise who does not know the moon, you need someone wise to tell you that's the moon. But the unwise should not attach to this as the moon. 因子见月，子不是月。So I'm not going to rush through it because this is quite important, and we're going to continue next time. But always remember, ego, personality, beings, and life. You have to understand it. You have to understand it, the threefold concept of the giver, the recipient, and the gift of giving. All these you have to understand the first 12 chapters in order to understand this chapter 13.